You think Lewis Hamilton was just venting after qualifying? Think again. That line, "There's a lot going on in the background that's not great," wasn't a throwaway comment. It was calculated. Hamilton doesn't speak without intent, and if you blinked, you missed the warning. That moment was less about frustration and more about sending a message, not to the fans, not to the press, but straight to Ferrari. And someone inside got the message loud and clear. Riccardo Adami. Now, Adami wasn't just handed to Hamilton to smooth the transition into Ferrari. No, he's become something else entirely, a translator, a strategist, and maybe even a quiet rebel. You want to know what really happened behind the scenes in Hungary? It started in that post-qualifying silence. While the world fixated on P12, Hamilton said one thing in the debrief room, low voice, clear intent. You ask for feedback, then ignore it when it threatens your plan. That wasn't about car balance. That was about power. Hamilton had spotted something in the FP3 data, not a mistaken decision, a decision to reverse changes he'd specifically requested. And the kicker? Nobody told him until it was too late. That's the first crack in the armor, and Hamilton saw it coming. Let me ask you this: do you think Ferrari is really behind Hamilton, or are they just putting on a show? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one's going to divide opinions. And hey, if you're the kind of fan who watches more than just the race, if you listen to the radio, check the data sheets, read between the lines, then you're in the right place. Subscribe to our channel and enable the notification bell. Your subscription is very important to us. Help us grow and reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're just getting started, because what Hamilton did next wasn't explosive, it was deliberate, and it set the stage for everything that followed in Hungary. From the outside, FP3 looked routine, just another day at the track. But when you dive into the telemetry, the picture changes completely. The Ferraris on the same circuit, but their setups told different stories. Hamilton asked for rear stability to build confidence under braking. Leclerc, he wanted rotation on entry. Both valid requests, both based on driving style. But here's where it gets strange. Hamilton's request was accepted during practice, tested on track, and then, without warning, quietly reversed overnight. On Saturday morning, telemetry logs showed changes to the rear ride height and differential preload, both critical to braking confidence. And by the time qualifying began, those settings were gone. Not tweaked, not adjusted, completely removed. So who approved this change? It wasn't Adami. It wasn't Hamilton. Whispers inside Ferrari point to someone higher up in the main performance group making a strategic override. But the real question is why? And that's what's rattling the foundation of this team. Because while Hamilton was left wrestling with unpredictable braking and rear instability, Leclerc's car remained untouched, perfectly dialed in for his style. And when Hamilton came over the radio saying, "I told them it wouldn't hold under braking," that wasn't emotion, it was confirmation. He had warned them. He had seen it coming, and they went ahead anyway. Here's something for you to vote on. Was this just a strategic misjudgment? Or something political? Yes or no, what's your take? And this is where the story starts to move from setup sheets into something deeper. Ferrari didn't just alter the balance of a car. They shook the trust of a 7-time world champion. And that's not a technical issue. That's a culture problem. If you're starting to see the pattern, decisions made in silence, information flowing unevenly, and a top-tier driver being treated like a number to make sure you hit that like button, it's a small move, but it helps push the story to more F1 fans who need to see what's really going on. Because once you break a driver's trust, you don't just lose lap time, you risk losing the garage. The turning point wasn't on track, it happened behind closed doors, in a room where strategy is shaped and power dynamics get exposed. Sunday morning, no cameras, just the core team: Hamilton, Leclerc, engineers, and top brass. And right in the middle of that calm, calculated silence, Lewis dropped the question that froze the entire room. Do you want a cars or just one? He wasn't yelling. He didn't slam a table. He just said it direct, controlled, deliberate, and it landed like a punch to the chest. That one sentence hit harder than any on-track move could have. Because what he was really saying was this: stop pretending. If you've already chosen a side, at least be honest about it. One insider said the room didn't just go quiet, it went still. No one responded, but one person moved: Riccardo Adami. He didn't speak. He just nodded and calmly flipped the page in his strategy brief. That was all Hamilton needed to know. The message had been received. Here's something for you if you were in that briefing and heard Lewis ask that question. What would you say next? Drop your response in the comments. Let's see who's really reading between the lines. Because this wasn't about asking for equal treatment. It was about exposing the illusion that it already existed. Hamilton wasn't begging for help. He was calling out the system. And if you think that kind of boldness deserves a voice, subscribe to Fast News F1. We're here to highlight the stories they won't put in press releases. That Sunday briefing didn't change Ferrari's race plan, but it changed the energy. Because from that moment on, the internal war wasn't theoretical anymore, it was active. And Hungary was no longer just another Grand Prix. It was the battleground for something far bigger than points. By the time the race reached lap 43, the cracks at Ferrari were no longer hidden, they were screaming through the radio. Leclerc's voice came through raw and uncertain. Why am I losing time? Something's wrong with the car. At first, it sounded like a typical driver outburst during a rough stint. But listen again and you'll catch something deeper: confusion. Not about tire strategy or engine modes, about trust. Behind the scenes, engineers already knew there was an issue. The data had shown a day's earlier vibration anomalies in the left rear suspension after FP2. Nothing dramatic, just a tiny misalignment, technically within spec. But under race conditions, that defect became a liability. Ferrari had gambled. They chose to send Leclerc out, hoping clean air and track position would hide the problem. But when the performance dropped, it exposed everything, including the silence that led to it. And the irony? While Leclerc was driving a car with a hidden flaw, Hamilton was battling with a machine intentionally stripped of the tools he requested. Different problems, same root cause. The trust between driver and team was breaking down on both sides of the garage. Now here's where things start shifting. Adami, still calm, still quiet, began feeding Hamilton the kind of in-race data usually filtered through strategy layers: live tire deltas, brake balance trends, opponent lift points. It wasn't overt. It wasn't rebellion, but it was intentional. A subtle shift in energy, a change in tone. Hamilton picked up on it immediately. This wasn't about engineering anymore. It was about loyalty, quiet, steady, strategic loyalty. Adami wasn't choosing sides in a political war. He was choosing the driver who told the truth, asked the right questions, and had been denied the tools to fight. Let me ask you, do you think Adami was just doing his job, or did he make a choice that day? Tell me in the comments. And if this deeper layer of F1 is what keeps you hooked beyond the overtakes and tire wear, then be sure to subscribe. Help us reach our 1,000 subscriber goal and join a growing community that actually gets what's going on. Because what happened in Hungary wasn't about setup sheets, it was about shifting allegiances. And from that moment, everything inside Ferrari started to feel different. After the race, Ferrari's internal split wasn't just visible, it was institutional. Hamilton wasn't part of the main debrief. Instead, Ferrari quietly divided the team into two rooms. One for Leclerc, the technical chiefs and performance leads. The other smaller, quieter for Hamilton, Adami, and the data engineers. No Vassar, no BO and OT to dot, no noise. The official excuse? Time optimization. The real reason? Political containment. See, Hamilton's question in that Sunday morning briefing, do you want a cars or just one, didn't just rattle cages. It broke protocol. It called out the chain of command in front of everyone. Ferrari couldn't punish him outright, but they could isolate, segregate, control the flow of information. But Adami didn't flinch. He followed Hamilton into that second room and brought something critical with him, not just a summary, but the full master data set, raw, unfiltered, transparent. That move said more than any press release could. It said, I've chosen where I stand. Leclerc's camp noticed. They weren't angry at Hamilton. They were angry at what it represented: a fracture, a fault line, and a potential shift in power. And then came the quiet voice from outside the paddock. Lauren Mecca's ex-Ferrari, now at Visa RB, broke his silence for the first time this season. When asked about Hamilton's integration into the team, his answer wasn't emotional. It was precise. It's not that Lewis is learning Ferrari. It's that Ferrari is learning Lewis. Some don't like what they're seeing. That's the story. Not rebellion. Realignment. Not chaos. Calculation. This isn't just about 2025. It's about Ferrari redefining itself around performance, autonomy, and a driver who refuses to play by old rules. Let me ask you, has Ferrari already begun to shift? Or is this just the beginning? Let me know below. And if you've made it this far, you're not just a fan, you're part of the inner circle. Subscribe now to Fast News F1 and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. This story is just getting started.